In a world filled with giant cattle and towering dairy goats, one tiny breed stands out, not because of its size, but because of its story. Meet the Nigerian dwarf goat. A small animal with a rich history that stretches from the forests of West Africa to backyards and homesteads across America. But how did this pint-sized goat become one of the most beloved dairy breeds in the world? The answer goes back more than 100 years through journeys, changes, and careful breeding. In this video, we'll uncover the roots of the Nigerian dwarf goat, explore its rise in popularity, and discover why it continues to charm farmers, homesteaders, and families all over the world. Let's begin our journey where it all started, in the tropical forests of West Africa. The Nigerian dwarf goat has deep roots in West Africa, where its ancestors have lived for centuries. These goats belong to a group known as West African dwarf goats, small, hardy animals perfectly suited to their hot, humid environment. Life in these tropical forests isn't easy. The land is thick with vegetation, and diseases like sleeping sickness, spread by tsetse flies, can be deadly. But these goats developed natural resistance to many of these threats, including parasites and harsh weather. That's one reason why they were so important to local farmers. West African communities relied on these goats not just for meat, but also for milk. Even though the goats were small, they produced rich, nutritious milk. They also had another advantage: they reproduced quickly. Twins and even triplets were common, helping families grow their herds faster. These goats were more than just livestock. They were a part of daily life. And although they stayed mostly in Africa for generations, a few of them would soon begin an unexpected journey to a very different place. In the early 1900s, some of these goats were loaded onto ships, heading not to farms, but to a surprising destination: American zoos. The journey of the Nigerian dwarf goat from West Africa to America began in the early 1900s. But they didn't arrive as farm animals. Instead, they were brought over by ships and delivered to zoos across the United States. At the time, American zoos were eager to collect exotic animals from around the world. These small African goats, with their unique size and appearance, caught the attention of zoo curators. They were used as display animals, and sometimes even as feed for large predators. But some of the goats avoided this fate and were adopted by private breeders and hobby farmers. Over time, two very different types of goats began to appear from the original African imports. One group was stockier, more muscular, and better suited for meat production. These goats became known as the American Pygmy goat. The other group was more refined and graceful, with a body shape similar to larger dairy goats. They became the foundation for what we now call the Nigerian dwarf goat. It was this second group, small, friendly, and full of potential for dairy use, that began to capture the attention of goat lovers and small-scale farmers alike. But turning these little goats into a recognized dairy breed would take years of careful breeding and dedication. Let's see how that happened. As the Nigerian dwarf goat began to gain attention in the United States, a small but passionate group of breeders took on the challenge of shaping the breed's future. Unlike the meatier American Pygmy goat, the Nigerian dwarf was valued for its gentle temperament, colorful coat, and surprising dairy potential. Breeders focused on refining these traits, selecting goats that were not only small and friendly, but also productive milkers. They wanted a miniature version of a full-size dairy goat, something that could fit into a backyard, but still provide rich, high butterfat milk. In the 1980s, their work began to pay off. The American Goat Society, AGS, started officially registering Nigerian dwarfs in 1984. This allowed breeders to keep records and improve the breed more consistently. Dedicated breeders like Sandra Mason Patricia Freeman and Shawla Parker played major roles in these early efforts. They organized breed committees, started holding shows, and helped establish breed standards, focusing on correct size, strong milk production, and proper body proportions. These efforts laid the foundation for what the Nigerian dwarf would become, not just a cute pet, but a serious dairy goat in a compact package. But there was still one major goal left to achieve: getting national recognition as a true dairy breed. That would be the next big milestone. By the late 1990s, the Nigerian dwarf goat had come a long way from its origins in African forests and American zoos. It was now a well-loved breed among hobby farmers and small dairies, but it still lacked one crucial thing: recognition by the country's largest dairy goat registry, the American Dairy Goat Association, or ADGA. Recognition by the ADGA would mean the Nigerian dwarf goat could officially compete in sanctioned dairy shows, have detailed milk production records, and be seen as a serious dairy animal, not just a pet or novelty. In the early 2000s, breeders began a coordinated push. They submitted proposals, shared data, and showcased goats that produced large amounts of high-quality milk despite their small size. The numbers spoke for themselves. Many Nigerian dwarf does could produce up to a quart of milk per day, with butterfat levels averaging 6% or more, higher than most standard dairy breeds. This made their milk perfect for cheese, yogurt, and soap. After years of persistence, the ADGA finally voted in favor. In 2005, the Nigerian dwarf goat was officially recognized as a dairy breed. It was a huge moment, not just for the breeders, but for the future of small-scale dairy farming. This recognition opened the doors for thousands of people who wanted a manageable, productive goat that could thrive in backyards, homesteads, and even suburban neighborhoods. From that point on, the breed began to grow rapidly, spreading across the country and even into other parts of the world. After gaining official dairy status in 2005, the Nigerian dwarf goat didn't just grow in popularity, it exploded. In the early 2000s, there were only a few thousand registered Nigerian dwarf goats in the United States. But by 2023, that number had grown to over 40,000 registered animals, making them one of the fastest-growing dairy goat breeds in the country. Why did they catch on so quickly? Because Nigerian dwarfs offered something that larger dairy goats couldn't. They were small, easy to handle, and didn't need much space. They could live on small farms, backyards, or even in suburban settings. Their milk was also a major selling point. It was high in butterfat and incredibly creamy, making it perfect for artisan products. Many homesteaders and small batch producers turned to Nigerian dwarfs to create cheeses, lotions, and soaps with a premium feel. But it wasn't just about milk. These goats were also winning hearts as pets and educational animals. Their calm personalities, small size, and colorful coats made them a favorite for schools, petting farms, and even goat yoga classes. Their popularity soon reached beyond the United States. Nigerian dwarfs found homes in Canada, Australia, and parts of Europe. With proper breeding standards in place, the breed remained healthy and true to its dairy roots. Their genetic traits even inspired new breeds. In the 1990s, breeders crossed Nigerian dwarfs with fiber goats like Angoras to create the Ngora goat, a small goat that provides both milk and fiber. From exotic curiosity to worldwide favorite, the Nigerian dwarf goat had firmly established its place in the world of agriculture, homesteading, and hobby farming. Now, let's take a closer look at what makes these goats so special: their appearance, personality, and the legacy they continue to build. With their small size, gentle nature, and eye-catching colors, Nigerian dwarf goats are as charming as they are useful. But there's more to them than just good looks. According to breed standards, Nigerian dwarf can stand up to 22.5 inches tall, while bucks can reach 23.5 inches. They're considered true miniature dairy goats, not just because of their size, but because of how well their bodies are built for milking. They have well-attached udders, strong teats, and excellent milk production for their size. On average, a healthy doe can produce between 1 and 2 pints of milk per day, and some exceptional does produce even more. But what truly makes their milk stand out is the butterfat. Nigerian dwarf milk averages around 6 to 10% butterfat compared to 3 or 4% in many standard breeds. That means it's thicker, richer, and creamier, ideal for making cheese, yogurt, and even goat milk fudge. These goats also come in an impressive variety of colors and patterns, from solid black or gold to flashy spots and moon spots. No two goats look exactly the same. Some are born with horns, while others are naturally polled, or have their horns removed when young. They're known for their sweet and social personalities. Nigerian dwarfs are easy to train, friendly with children, and calm around other animals. This makes them a top choice for families, 4-H projects, and therapy animals. They also mature quickly. Some does can be bred as early as 7 to 8 months old. Their lifespan is usually 8 to 12 years, and they commonly give birth to twins or triplets, sometimes even quadruplets. Whether they're winning ribbons at shows, providing milk for homemade products, or simply brightening someone's backyard, Nigerian dwarfs have become much more than just farm animals. They represent a shift towards small-scale, sustainable, and deeply personal farming. But as their popularity continues to grow, it's important to remember where they came from and how humans helped shape their journey. Let's take a moment to reflect on that legacy. The Nigerian dwarf goat's story is one of resilience, transformation, and connection. From the humid forests of West Africa to suburban backyards in North America, this little goat has crossed continents, cultures, and generations. What began as an exotic curiosity in American zoos evolved into a carefully developed breed. Breeders, farmers, and families worked for decades to shape a goat that was not only beautiful and friendly, but also functional, a true miniature dairy animal. Today, Nigerian dwarf goats play many roles. They feed families. They teach children responsibility. They give comfort and joy to people across the world. And they continue to prove that even the smallest animals can have a big impact. But their story is also a reminder. When we take care in how we breed, raise, and by interacting with animals, we can shape something extraordinary. The Nigerian dwarf goat didn't just adapt to our world. We helped create its place in it, from African forests to American farms. The Nigerian dwarf goat's journey continues, small in size but enormous in heart.